The Shoshana collection is the most important collection of ancient Judean coins which has ever come to public auction. It was formed by a California collector over about a 30-year period from 1976 to 2003, and it comprises about 1,600 coins. They span a huge span of history, all the way from about 500 BC to about the 12th century AD. So we're talking about 1,800 years of history. Well, they tell a very important story going back to the origins of the Jewish people themselves and the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, and also the Jewish state that has existed there, both in ancient times, and it relates to a lot of the conflicts, the cultures that have occupied that area over the past couple of thousand years. It was hard to really anticipate what was going to happen because a lot of these coins had not been seen on the market in more than 20 years. And there were many singular pieces. There were things that existed only in ones and twos in the numismatic world. And typically these things are some of the most highly sought after items in the entire numismatic market, and certainly these are incredibly important coins. Besides being desirable collectibles, they're important historically. So not only do individual collectors really want to acquire coins like this, but say the Israel Museum actually made a very concerted effort to acquire some of the coins in the collection because they didn't have them in their collection. I thought might have done a little bit better than they did. Some things did about like they did. Some things did much more than I expected. The Roman coins did phenomenally well. They went many times estimate. A lot of the important rarities in the Roman series went many times the estimate. So all in all, we probably were about where I thought we would be on it. Of course, you always want to see better prices for some things, but we set a whole host of records along the way, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, we are certainly the most ever paid for a single Judean coin. That's for the year one prototype shekel. Went for $1.105 million. Certainly the most ever paid for a ancient Judean coin. We had a Roman aureus that sold for $956,000. I believe that's a record for a Roman gold aureus. Right along the way, every single denomination that we sold, shekel, Bar Kokhba, the coins that we sold in that, each of those, the highlights from each of those individual areas set prices that had never been seen before on the market. But it's important to remember a lot of these coins had not been seen on the market in 20-odd years. So say 20 years ago, in 1992, that year one shekel sold for $250,000. So this time it sold for over $1 million. So some of the records went for 3 and 4 times what they'd sold for before. Shoshana 2 is in many ways a reprise of Shoshana 1. It has coins from each of the major phases of Judean coinage, going back to the Persian period, some of the bronzes of the Hasmonean and Herodian pieces, but certainly the highlights are the coins of the 2 revolts, the Jewish war against Rome from 66 to 70. There's a coin from, at least one coin, and in many cases multiple coins, from each of the 5 years of the rebellion. Year 1 shekel, year 2, 3, 4, and then the rarity of the year 5 shekel. There are also coins of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, all the way from year 1s, which were formerly quite rare, still are quite rare, but I believe there are 4 year 1 selas in this sale. There are a whole number of year 2s, all the different denominations, the large silver coins, the smaller ones, the bronzes. All of these are represented in the sale, and certainly a large selection of the so-called city coins, the coins struck by the Romans, the Greeks sometimes, and then the Romans that came after them in the coins of Judea, in the cities of Judea. These are referred to as city coins. So there's a large selection of those as well. So in many ways, it's a lot of the same coins that were sold in Shoshana 1. Will there be any $1 million shekels? Probably not. Love to see it happen. I don't think we're going to get that this time, but there are going to be a number of 5 and possibly 6-figure coins in this sale. was a sort of a breakthrough auction, and this will follow in its wake, so to speak. Again, there are a lot of the coins, some of those very early Persian period coins had not been seen in any numbers like that on the market before, and this will test the depth of that market. I think certain areas are going to reach beyond just the interest in Judean coins specifically into the broader interest in that region. There are Arabian coins, there's coins of the so-called Philistines, Philisto-Arabian coins of the Persian period, and certainly there are a number of Hellenistic Greek coins that were struck in cities in the Judean lands. And there are, as I mentioned before, a lot of Roman city coins which have very interesting themes and designs on them. Some of them are very reflective of the local culture of both Roman religion, but also some of the indigenous local religions. So people who are interested in ancient religion, ancient cultures, are going to find a lot of interest in this, that is of interest in this collection. The cataloging was all done by David Hendon, who's the most well-known expert in this field, in the Judean field. He wrote the Guide to Biblical Coins, which is everybody's handbook for this series. And he spent a lot of time researching this sale. Every coin is very well documented, which auctions it's been in before, what collections it's been in before. Some of them are from very important collections that have been published. The dies for many of the coins are published in Mildenberg's corpus on the Bar Kokhba coinage. Many of these coins are famous in and of their own right because they've both resided in important collections and they've been sold as part of important sales, so the pedigrees are all carefully noted. A lot of coins, a lot of ancient and modern coins have portraits on them. There's something that you can easily tag onto. Judean coins require a little bit more depth and a little bit more study because they're not necessarily, they don't have the same artistic sense as a lot of Western coins do. The images are all kind of abstract, and you have to see the beauty in those abstract, often religious influenced images, and in the calligraphy and the writing, and in just the mere symbolism and the importance of what this coin means culturally and historically. So, I've learned a tremendous amount by doing this. It was never an area I was really focused in, but now I'm quite fully versed in the series, and I find it really fascinating.
Heritage Auctions presents the Shoshana Collection, the greatest collection of ancient Judean coins ever brought to public auction. Diligently assembled over 40 years by a California collector who had unequaled access to some of the most important specialists in the field, the Shoshana Collection spans the dawn of coinage in the Holy Land circa 500 BC to the Islamic conquest 1100 years later. The sale is scheduled for March 8th and 9th in New York City and comprises 712 lots, including several outstanding rarities. The lily, or Shoshan in Hebrew, has been associated with Judea from the earliest times. This extremely rare silver dram from the Holy Land, likely struck in Jerusalem and patterned on the famous Athenian owl tetradram, has a lily shown clearly on the reverse. It is the finest of fewer than 3 known specimens. One of the most famous and highly sought after early Judean coins is the menorah bronze pruta of Mattathiah Antigonus, last of the Maccabee rulers of Israel. Struck in 37 BC, this humble bronze piece is one of the only ancient coins to depict 2 of the sacred objects from the temple in Jerusalem: the showbread table and the 7-branched menorah. Only 23 menorah coins are known to have survived, and the first Shoshana collection includes 2 of them. By the 1st century of the Common Era, Judea had fallen under the heavy hand of Rome. In 66 AD, discontent flared into full-scale war in the ancient Holy Land, with the tiny state of Israel pitted against the vast and powerful Roman Empire. For the first time, the Jewish state struck silver coins with designs and slogans proclaiming independence and freedom. This prototype silver shekel struck during the first weeks or months of the conflict, is much like a modern pattern. Only a small handful were made to test the engraving and minting facilities at the Jerusalem temple, of which only 2 have survived to the present day. The only other known specimen is in the Israel Museum. In archaic Hebrew script, the obverse declares itself a shekel of Israel, made in year 1. The reverse inscription reads, Jerusalem the Holy. The Jewish forces struck a full range of denominations in silver during the Great Conflict, including half and quarter shekels. Only 2 quarter shekels of year 1 have survived to the present day, of which the Shoshana specimen is by far the finest. Due to the religious ban on graven images, none of the Judean coins struck during the conflict bear any human or animal images. The obverses of nearly all silver coins depict a ritual chalice, while the reverses bear a stem with 3 pomegranates, probably intended to represent the top of a staff carried by the temple high priests. By the 4th year of the Great War against Rome, the Judean forces had been pushed back to the environs of Jerusalem and conditions were getting desperate. Supplies of precious metal dwindled, and shekels of year 4 and 5 are exceedingly rare. This half shekel of year 4 is one of only 6 specimens known to have survived. Early in 70 AD, the Roman legions under the general Titus surrounded Jerusalem and, after a 5-month siege, stormed the temple precinct. A few hundred Jewish fighters escaped to the mountaintop fortress of Masada, which held out for another 3 years. When the Romans finally battered their way in, they found nearly all of the remaining rebels had committed ritual suicide in a final act of defiance. This rare silver shekel of year 5 was reportedly found at Masada and was once part of the famous Nelson Bunker Hunt collection. 60 years after the end of the First Jewish War, the Jews of the Holy Land once again erupted into revolt, this time under the charismatic warrior Simon Bar Kokhba, who claimed to be the Messiah prophesied in Scripture. Later generations would call him Bar Kokhba, son of a star. Again, the Jews struck silver coins, this time hammering their own designs into Roman coins circulating in the region. This exceedingly rare silver selah of year 1 is among the finest known examples. The Judean rebels also had a range of bronze coins during the Bar Kokhba conflict, including these exceptionally large pieces, now called Abu Jarrah coins. The Shoshana collection contains the world's largest private collection of Abu Jarrah pieces, including this wonderful specimen. The obverse inscription reads, Jerusalem, while the reverse reads, Year 1 of the Redemption of Israel. This remarkable silver selah of year 2 is deeply struck from fresh dies and perfectly centered, exceptionally rare in this wartime emergency coinage. The obverse depicts the facade of the Great Temple, destroyed in the First War 6 decades before, while the reverse shows the lulav and etrog used in Jewish ritual. The reverse inscription reads, Year 2 of the Freedom of Israel. The Romans made brilliant use of coinage to spread propaganda messages. None of these issues is more famous than the Judea Capta series of coins. This spectacular brass sestertius of the Emperor Vespasian, struck in 71 AD, shows a remarkably lifelike profile of the emperor, backed with a symbolic depiction of the subjugation of Israel. A rebel warrior is shown with his hands bound behind his back at the base of a palm tree, while a woman representing Judea sits with her head hung in mourning. This amazing coin has the original brassy surfaces of a freshly struck coin and is among the finest in existence. Titus, son of the